Welcome to the Faces of Acupuncture. I am your host, Dumisani Kampishampa. Today we will be having a conversation with Dr. Jason Luis. So I would like to welcome you to this podcast. And so not to delay, let's get to it. Tell me, why did you get involved in acupuncture?
Well, that's getting right into the news line. First of all, thank you for having me. Being invited onto this by you, a person of your stature within this medicine, I would say is an honor and a privilege. So I got into acupuncture through my trials and tribulations as an athlete, as a professional acrobat. I was a martial artist and performer for many years. So, throughout all those kinds of activities, you go through a lot of different injuries. And, I would have all these different bumps and bruises and some serious injuries, and I would go into, to see different doctors. Sometimes I had to go to hospitals. And it was a discouraging time when I was 18, 19 years old, and they were telling me I have to retire because I'm too old to do this kind of stuff.
You were retiring from what?
They were telling me I had to retire from my physical pursuits.
You were doing the nets then at that time?
I was doing the nets. I was performing as a trampolinist.
Right, okay.
And an acrobat. So
Okay.
they're like, you're too old for this. And I'm like, what?
Just 18?
Because there's nothing they can do for you. That's the problem, So throughout over the years, I still kept pursuing it, of course. And I ran into a martial artist with an acupuncturist. And, he gave me a brief introduction, but he wasn't really trying to, he kind of, told me I have to, find my own journey in a way, which, I still didn't really pursue it from there. But years later, I was trying to figure out what I want to do. I was an undergrad. I was studying fine arts at FIT. And kind of came across acupuncture, and there was a program in the city at Pacific College.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the orientation, and I was just overwhelmed. I was like, this is amazing, and I wanted to know more. I wanted to be involved, so I enrolled and got into it.
Wait. Hold on. You was at FIT?
Yeah.
What were you going to? What were you studying? What you wanted to do?
I was studying fine arts. We did a lot of painting, drawing classes. So I came from a background. My father was actually also into the arts.
He was an artist? Painter?
He did painting mostly.
Sculpture?
But he didn't really do it professionally. It was a hobby.
Okay. He got stuff somewhere?
Probably not.
Okay.
But he's very artistic. He's an artistic person. So growing up, that's something I was, encouraged to do. So I went to schools in New York City that were focused primarily in the arts. So as a youth, I was in the Broadway Academy of the Arts, and then I went to school. I studied architecture. In high school, I went to specialized high school, and then they had a relationship with FIT where the graduates can easily matriculate into their program, which I did. So I chose fine arts, but that was I was just trying to figure things out.
Yeah.
You're still a kid. I was like, this is fun. I was doing it.
Okay.
Learned about acupuncture, and that was it.
Okay.
I did whatever I needed to do to get into that program. You didn't know that one, did you?
No, I didn't know you had a fine art background. And your father. I know your father. I know where your father's from, but I was like, okay, he's a fine artist. He's painting and stuff like that. It's great. I mean, this is interesting. Yeah, I mean, we got to come from somewhere, right? So we all come from different places. All right, so talk to me a little bit about you now do a lot of integrative work in clinics and hospitals and things like that. This the doctorate that you have as a doctor of acupuncture. And how do you find that setting?
So I definitely enjoy working as a multidisciplinary practitioner who works alongside other disciplines of medicine. I feel like the multidisciplinary patient-centered approach is the most integrative method you can do where the patient is being seen not just as a condition, but as a person. So, you don't really want to refer to a patient just as their condition or syndrome or illness. Because it's still a person. So you want to look at them from every perspective. And unfortunately, especially with Western medicine, they look at patients. Every specialty is broken down into a condition. Every doctor is like, okay, this is your doctor for your arthritis, and you have a different doctor for, your hypertension. And it's like, there was a joke in acupuncture school. I don't know if you heard this when they said, if you ever injure your hand, make sure you see a left hand specialist and not the right hand specialist, because they're not gonna know what to do for you. So it's like, as a holistic practitioner, it's great because we're kind of like jack of all trades. You never heard that one? So we're jack of all trades. A patient come in and it's like, oh, whatever's going on, acupuncture can do something for that.
Okay.
Of course, sometimes we have to refer out too,
Yes.
and we want other opinions also. But it's like, I can get you at least to a place where you feel better than you did when you first walked in the door.
When you give, one of my first teachers said that if you give a treatment, herbs or acupuncture, if you could take away just to find the simplest thing or illness that they have and concentrate on that and take that away. Once you do that, could be headache, could be back pain, or finger pain, could be any kind of thing, right? But you take that away and you build up confidence that the patient, says, oh, well, this person knows what they're doing. And, he said they'll follow you to the ends of the earth. Okay. Not literally, but what he meant was that, people, if they get results, they're going to stick with you. And with herbs, it was the same thing. So you could give them, find a basic part of their constitutional aspect or their acute, if you got an acute thing that's going on and it works really well, like you could take, yin chow, right? We know that works really well for wind cold, right? And the Chinese pattern, wind cold, right? It works very well for that. And you can give them that herbal formula and it goes away, or if a person's prone to those kind of things, you can give it to them, put it in there, and they take it and they get instant results and they say, whoa, this is good. So this is how you get them. I mean, you get them to understand that what you're doing is a science and that they understand that there's power in this science, and you build up confidence in your patients and what you do. It's just like when you do acupuncture, you've been doing this for over 15 years now. If you treat someone and they feel better, what do? They come back, right? They keep coming back.
They tell their friends and family about it.
Yeah.
The power of acupuncture still to this day. And I feel like I'm still learning. Every day I learn something from my patients, from fellow practitioners, mentors, of course, But I feel like, although I've been practicing 15 years, I feel like I'm still just breaking the surface of this medicine. This has been around 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, debatable, but thousands of years for sure. And having been doing this and studying this for 15 years, I'm barely breaking the surface.
Well, welcome to the world. The idea that if you walk in and say, I'm the Superman of Chinese medicine, and I've seen a lot of people like that, I start scratching my head and looking at them like, huh? You only been in this earth, how many years? And this has been around for a long time. There's been a lot of innovations in Chinese medicine, innovations in, you got Korean innovation of acupuncture and Chinese medicine. You got Japanese innovation. You got the Vietnamese innovation. Then you have, throughout China, you have different, north and south and the coastal China, they have all these different innovations. And this stuff been going on for a long time. And so I tell people that, like you say, every day I pick up some text to read and to really get deep into, the science of acupuncture, because I find that it reinforces or opens the door to me knowing something on a deeper level. Like I read, currently I'm reading a lot of Mashiosho, Giovanni Mashiosho. Well, he's a prolific writer, right? He's got about 10 books, but his books are like excellent, right? Like he's been able to, get past like all of the, he studied in, he was a professor in Nanjing College of Oriental Medicine, and he spoke Chinese, and translations are spot on. In fact, all the Chinese that I know say, if you want to know about, Chinese medicine, he's the man. He knows. So, he's the kind of person that I would recommend to, as you go through your training and your development as a practitioner, give him a close read, he's boring. Like, I mean, when you were in college, they had that listed as selected readings for your course, and you looked at it and you kind of say, you looked at the book and it's too thick, it's too dense.
Definitely worth circling back to.
Now that you are out of that environment, you should go back and take a look at it, because there's a lot of wisdom and pearls in there that a lot of the training you get, it's not there. And that would be my recommendation to you. If you want to go and take a deeper dive, to expand yourself. So go ahead.
So definitely over the 15 years, I've been more into the acupuncture realm.
Yes.
But I'm ready to get deeper into my herbal practice as a traditional Chinese medicine practitioner.
His books have both remedies in the books.
Yeah.
So he does the acupuncture and the herbs, and it's unlike the dead man. That's a text. What is the name of the Deadman text? The something of acupuncture.
Handbook?
No, the comprehensive something acupuncture. Anyway, I have to get the title of the book. But he's one of the most definitive, texts for acupuncturists, right? Deadman, right?
Yeah.
And then, so he just talks about acupuncture. Then you have Binsky, who is the other, the formulas and strategies, and then the materia medica.
Yeah.
And so they kind of separate, and you read one, you have to go to, it's no integration, but Giovanni, he integrates everything.
Yeah.
So for
of
you,
course, there's nothing like seeing practical applications.
Yeah. Of
and
course.
That's what,
Of course.
That's what, of course, separates,
Yes.
Yes. The student from the master.
Well, yeah, but you work at it like, they have this system called Dui Yao, where you have two herbs. They start you like with a two herb formula. Well, there's really a one herb formula, which is called Ren Shin, which is ginseng, right? And that would be like, and most people, have taken ginseng. That's like a one herb formula, right?
Yeah.
And then you could add another.
Quality is important too.
Oh yeah, of course.
People buy the ginseng from the corner store, and it's like, I've been stepped on.
Well, it's the same
That's from
thing.
the bottom of the factory.
Well, you go, yeah. So you going down there, you're gonna get that. But in terms of ginseng, they start off with like this system of two herbs. So the herb that closely resembles Renshin, which is ginseng, is Danshin. It has the same qualities, but just not as strong. But they work together. Yeah. So those two, and then that's the way they build it up. So it's almost like having stomach 36. And what would you add to stomach 36 to make it more effective? If you're going to build, you're just building chi, just make chi, right? Just chi. It's just a chi selection of points. You do stomach 36, and then what else would you probably add to it?
Maybe a spleen 9.
Okay, so there you go. So that it reinforces the action of stomach 36, right?
Yeah.
So that's how the herbal system is built. Because usually when you do stomach 36, you're usually adding spleen 9, right? That's sort of like I see that all the time with, point prescriptions.
Of course, it depends on the patient.
Yeah, of course. I'm not getting to all of that detail. Yeah. I'm not going to that layer of but just in general, if you were talking about it.
Oh, well, of course, I practiced herbs more frequently when I was fresh out of school.
Oh, okay.
It was that kind of that gung-ho spirit.
Yeah.
To do everything.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like because I was pushing it on patients who weren't really ready for it, it was a turnoff. So now it's like patients want acupuncture, and only if they really request herbs from me now, I'm like, okay, cool, we can look into it. We'll do a consultation, and we'll figure out how we can incorporate it into your treatment. But so nowadays, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, you came along at an interesting time in Chinese medicine when I first started. We were given raw herbs. Yeah. And we had a herbal pharmacy, and you had to cook them. Yep. And you smell in the house.
It takes a certain patience to do all that.
Well, no, at the time when it first came out, in America, in the 80s and things like that, people were like, they wanted the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
And just like you don't want shake and bake wushu, right? You want the real thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you had the training. So anyway, people were willing to do that. And then plus on the community, like I found that the Caribbean, Hispanic, African Americans, they wanted the herb. They didn't want anything else. They didn't want the pills. Yeah. And many of them had chronic disease, so they wanted to do something that was a little different and find another way. So they were willing to withstand the taste and the smell of
I mean, it was
cooking these
also
herbs.
part of the heritage.
Yeah.
You know, was
Yeah.
herbs and
Yeah, of course.
a more natural, holistic approach.
Yeah.
To conditions.
Well, you got a
So it's
modern
more
practice.
understandable.
Yeah, you have a modern practice though. That's what I always get from you. You have a very modern practice approach, which is where acupuncture and Chinese medicine is going in this country. The integration of acupunctures into the hospital systems. The VA has it. You can get acupuncture there, and so there's a push to integrate it. So that's interesting.
Yeah, working in the setting that I've been in for the last 15 years, it's a lot more mainstream healthcare, which is pain management related.
Yes.
You know, working alongside chiropractors and therapists and even medical doctors who are working in inner cities where we treat a lot of patients who have been in certain kind of physically traumatic situations, whether it be, I worked in no fault. Of course, I started my private practice.
Yeah, well, that was a joke. I remember when you first started in No Fault. I remember that. Go ahead. Talk to me about No Fault. This is interesting.
So out of school, of course, you were like, come over here, set up your private practice, and you set me up and everything was great. I was seeing patients fresh out of school. All my patients followed me. But then summer hit and nobody wants to be in an office, so things got slow and I was like, I need to make money. So I was like, let me see what this no fault stuff is about, which no fault has a bad name in acupuncture.
Yes.
Unfortunately over the years, certain people have taken advantage of.
Like what? Explain. What do you mean? What was going on in the industry with No Fault?
So first of all, what no fault is, it's let's say a person gets into a car accident.
Okay.
And their insurance company has a certain allowance for medical care.
Okay.
Right? And acupuncture is one of those therapies that actually is covered by this type of insurance.
Okay.
So alongside with acupuncture, again, you have physical therapy, chiropractic, you have medical doctors, surgeons, they can do x-rays, MRIs, they can do a host of different treatments.
Right.
The problem is that the practitioners over the years saw that this was so easy to bill, and they just overbilled it and took advantage of.
I mean, like the billing practices.
The billing practices were outrageous. The treatments were less than
optimum.
Less than optimal, for sure.
How many needles?
I mean, there are stories about patients walking in the door, signing, and walking out. Now, I've never worked in clinics that did that, but I've heard the stories.
All right.
So, coming from a background where I grew up in the South Bronx.
Right.
We grew up. My mother's from Central America, Nicaragua. My father is from the Canary Islands in Spain.
Right.
But when they came over here, had nothing, maybe a couple family members scattered throughout. I grew up in no health care.
Right.
So when I went into working in No Fault in the inner city, my first office was in the Bronx.
Right.
In Crotona Avenue, which is a little rough area. And these patients walk in and they have no health care. They have never really had the benefit of seeing most doctors, but forget acupuncture. Like they never even heard of acupuncture before.
Okay.
So I would not want to cheat these patients out of being able to utilize this amazing medicine.
Right.
And then they walk in the door and they see someone like me and they're like, "Oh, you kind of look like me."
Yeah.
I thought you're supposed to be Chinese or something like that.
Homeboy, keep out
of I'm just like, well, acupuncturists come in all different shapes and sizes these days, whatever. So I kind of build rapport that way. It's easier to introduce them to it. And, although I'm treating them at first for their injuries, and of course I'm doing the most highest quality of care I can provide.
Yes.
Because then, of course I'm still going to bill it reasonably within what's allowed. I never got in trouble with insurance companies or I never had issues working in No Fault, although many acupuncturists do, but I played within the, within the rules and regulations. But anyway, so treating these patients for their injuries, and now I'm developing trust, and now they're like, oh, oh man, I have problems sleeping, or females are like, oh, I mentioned, it's my period, and I'm having all these cramps, and I'm like, okay, I'll still treat your injury, but I can throw some needles for that.
Right.
Throw some needles in,
Right.
And it's like, now you're introducing, first of all, just being able to introduce this acupuncture to this population who has never had the opportunity. Most people never even heard of it.
Right.
It's a privilege now. And then on top of that, now I'm letting them know that it's not just for pain. You treat so many other things. Just, I would say a month ago, I was treating a guy at the clinic in Jersey City, and he had like a gout flare.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, I treated him for shoulder surgery, which he had, and he's getting much better. And I was like, well, I can throw some needles in. He's like, oh no, I'm just taking my medication later. And I'm like, well, let's just try some needles. It's not gonna hurt. And he's like, all right, go for it. So I throw a few needles, and I come back 15 minutes, give me something. His arm, the flare he had was down by more than 50%. Like before, it was like shiny.
I need red, yeah, inflamed.
And when I came back, I was like, and he's looking at me, he's like, you see this?
Yes.
And I'm like,
swollen.
so still to this day, it amazes me, and being able to like, and that's also an inner city area where it's, it's kind of a population that doesn't really have, like it's lower income.
Yes.
So being able to just share it with people who probably would never be able to afford it, it's amazing.
I find that a lot of people show up especially in the areas like where I used to work in the city. They would come in with like 13 different meds in a bag and ask me, I don't want to take this meds anymore. What can I do? So you've had that experience before?
I have, and of course, legally we're not allowed to recommend a patient stop or slow down any medications.
Right.
We don't want that heat anyway.
Right.
If anything happens, we also don't want to infringe on that relationship between their doctor or even
Of course. It's not your scope of practice.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, also, I want to work with, whenever a patient is on a plan with their doctor, I want to work with that doctor.
Yes.
And if I can call that doctor, or even I just visited last week, me and the chiropractor, we visited 6 medical offices within the area, just to introduce ourselves to doctors and our client, talking about their patients. And one of the doctors, she's like, I don't want to write any more pain meds. Okay. So if there's anything we can do to work together to reduce or eliminate the amount of prescriptions I'm writing to my patients, and so they see that acupuncture and other holistic approaches have a result in that realm.
Okay, Dr. Jason Luis.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure. We can talk forever, I can see, and you got a lot to share with us.
We're going to talk forever.
Okay, so we'll bring you back.
Yes,
and yes, so thank you, and I look forward to seeing you again.
All right.
Okay, you take care. Thank you.
Thank you.